The phoenix, the fiery red and gold bird said to rise from its own ashes, remains one of the most enduring symbols in human history. A universal image of rebirth, it appears across cultures for thousands of years, continually reincarnating in new forms and new meanings. But what may be surprising is this: the phoenix also finds its way into the Bible and early Christianity. Not as a literal creature, but as a powerful symbol. For early Christians, the phoenix was no longer just a myth. It became a way of expressing their belief in resurrection. Let's start at the beginning. The predecessor to the phoenix appears in Egypt. One of the earliest descriptions comes from the Greek historian Herodotus in the early 5th century BCE. After a journey to Egypt, he describes depictions of a remarkable bird he calls the phoenix. He was most likely referring to the Egyptian Bennu bird, associated with the rising sun and often represented in art as a gray heron. Herodotus himself is skeptical, but he records the tradition that this bird returns to Egypt every 500 years, flying to the sun temple at Heliopolis. Later, Greek and Roman writers expand the story. They describe the phoenix as a unique creature. Only one exists at a time, and when its long life comes to an end, it dies and is reborn. The details vary, but the central idea remains consistent. The phoenix lives, dies, and rises again. For the ancient world, it became a powerful symbol of renewal and life after death. And what makes this symbol even more intriguing is that in the ancient world, it shared a name and eventually a symbolic overlap with another powerful image, the palm branch. In Jewish tradition, the palm branch was a rich and powerful symbol associated with holiness, victory, and celebration. It appears as a decoration in Solomon's temple. In 1 Kings chapter 6, palm trees are carved into the walls, placing the image within the sacred space of Israel's worship. Palms also played a significant role in the festival of Sukkot, or the Feast of Booths. As described in Leviticus chapter 23, worshippers rejoiced before God with palm tree branches as part of a week-long celebration. Beyond worship, palm branches were also associated with national victory and restoration. In the first and second books of Maccabees, palms are used in celebrations marking the recovery of Jerusalem and the purification of the temple after its desecration. Across these contexts, the palm branch consistently signifies sanctity, triumph, and the restoration of what had been lost. Later Jewish interpreters also saw echoes of both the phoenix and the palm in the Hebrew scriptures. In Job chapter 29, verse 18, Job reflects on his former life, describing a long existence and speaks of dying in the nest and multiplying his days like the sand. In Hebrew, the word here, hol, means sand and is regularly translated as that. But hol also has a Hebrew homonym that can mean phoenix. And because this verse speaks of a nest in the first half, some later interpreters, including the Jewish Publication Society translation, connected the nest imagery with the legend of the phoenix, a bird associated with renewal and long life. Additionally, translations were influenced by the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, which takes a different approach to translating the Hebrew word hol. It rendered it as a palm tree, also seen as a symbol of longevity. So how did this word transform into a palm tree? In Greek, the connection between the two becomes explicit. The word phoenix can refer both to a palm branch and to the mythical phoenix. This does not mean the two symbols were identical, but it does mean that in the ancient Mediterranean world, their meanings could overlap. In the Greco-Roman world, the phoenix symbolized rebirth. In Jewish tradition, the palm branch symbolized victory, life, and holiness. Not identical meanings, but a meaningful convergence. The shared language is striking. This striking convergence of meanings is seen in the New Testament. Palm branches appear at key moments of recognition and victory. In the Gospel of John, chapter 12, as Jesus enters Jerusalem, the crowd takes palm branches, phoenix, and goes out to meet him, shouting, "Hosanna." This moment comes after the raising of Lazarus in John chapter 11, a sign that points to Jesus himself as the resurrection and the life. Within this context, the palm branch becomes more than a symbol of celebration. It is tied to a story moving directly toward death and resurrection. The same word appears again in Revelation chapter 7. There, a great multitude stands before God, clothed in white robes and holding palm branches, phoenix, as a sign of final victory. This imagery did not remain abstract. In early Christian art, martyrs are often depicted holding palm branches as they enter into glory. These figures, like the procession of female martyrs shown here, visually embody the same hope described in Revelation, that those who endure suffering will share in victory over death. In both text and image, then, the palm branch comes to signify triumph through suffering and life after death. And in a linguistic world where phoenix could also refer to the phoenix bird, the ancient symbol of rebirth, the convergence of these ideas becomes especially suggestive. Early Christian writers explicitly recognized the phoenix as a symbol of resurrection. One of the earliest examples appears in the first epistle of Clement, written about 70 years after Jesus' resurrection. There, Clement uses the phoenix as evidence that new life can emerge from death. He asks, "Do we think it to be a great marvelous thing, if the Creator of the universe shall bring out the resurrection, seeing that he showeth to us, even by a bird, the magnificence of his promise?" Later Christian writers continue this interpretation, using the phoenix as a natural analogy for resurrection. In some cases, the symbolism is even read back into scriptures. For example, Tertullian renders Psalm 92 verse 12 with the word phoenix rather than palm tree, drawing a direct connection between the biblical image of flourishing life and the idea of rebirth. The tradition is carried forward in the Physiologus, a widely circulated Greek text from the 2nd or 3rd century, which interprets the phoenix as a symbol of Christ's death and resurrection, often paired with passages such as the Gospel of John chapter 10, verse 18, where Jesus says, "No one takes my life from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have authority to lay it down and authority to take it up again." If the phoenix carried this meaning in early Christian thought, we should expect to see it reflected in Christian visual culture. And in fact, we do. Christians adopted the ancient symbol of rebirth and gave it a new and specific meaning, the resurrection of Jesus and the future resurrection of believers. This is especially evident in burial settings. Carved into sarcophagi and painted on catacomb walls, the phoenix appears as a sign of hope for the dead, a visual declaration that death is not the end. Here, the symbolism becomes concrete. What earlier writers described in words, artists expressed in images, that life would emerge from death. The Christian phoenix does not remain confined to tombs. It also appears in church mosaics, where its meaning becomes more public and explicit. Not limited to burial contexts, the phoenix is placed within corporate worship settings. Here, the symbol proclaims not only hope for the dead, but the broader Christian belief in Jesus' victory over death. Burial image becomes a theological statement, visible to the entire community. In Christian art, the phoenix, true to its enduring legend, remained a steadfast symbol, as seen in this early 9th century mosaic. What began as a symbol of cyclical renewal in the ancient world became a declaration of something far more specific for Christians, the resurrection of Jesus, and the future resurrection of the faithful. The same hope proclaimed in the first epistle to the Corinthians chapter 15, the body will be raised imperishable, is expressed later in visual form. Across texts, symbols, and images, the message remains consistent. Death is not the end, but the beginning of resurrection life. For almost everything you would want to know about the phoenix, check out Joseph Nigg's book, The Phoenix, and a natural biography of a mythical beast. To learn more about the Christian phoenix, check out Maria Kardis's and Dominika Tlučkova's article, The Symbol of the Phoenix and the Catacombs of Priscilla in Rome, and its transformation in early Christianity. To take a virtual tour of the Priscilla Catacombs, see the description for the link, as well as links to the book and article mentioned. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel.